It's a horrible day, game day, for players because you're just waiting around and the nerves don't go until you get on the pitch. You learn to accept the nerves are going to be there.
What does great leadership look like in your eyes?
Leadership is ultimately traits that you can do that people will follow. In rugby, you have so many leaders in the team. And then you've also got the captain, which is different. And to be a captain, I believe you do have to be a leader, but being a captain, it is a bit more. The World Cup in 2019 was really challenging. We went full of ambition and hope, and we ultimately performed really poorly. When you're leading a team and everything is going well, it's easy to get people to come with you because they all want to be part of a successful leadership team. And when you're under the pump and you're losing games, suddenly the offers for help disappear. It can be really lonely. I was obsessed with crossing all the I's, dotting the T's, being the best version of myself, especially when I was playing for Scotland, because I didn't want to let people down. I don't care what my competition does because ultimately I'm never going to be my best unless I'm competing with myself. Mentorship and guiding people isn't about me creating a team full of Stuart McInallys. It's about making sure that every player is able to be their best, whatever that looks like and whatever they need.
Stuart, thank you for joining me.
Great to be here. No,
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
It's you're in a little bit of a transition period or waiting for the next step of your career. What's that like just now?
Yeah. It's been nice. I'm sort of accepting that this is kind of a nice time in my life where I've got a bit of time where I'm not doing an awful lot. The kids are in nursery. I'm able to sort of spend time going to the gym and seeing friends and just trying to reset a little bit. The last sort of couple of years has been a bit of a blur for me.
Yeah.
I transitioned out of rugby in 2023 after the Rugby World Cup, and then went straight into my flight training. So
Of course.
transitioning into becoming a commercial pilot. 2024 was really busy with the exams. So anyone who knows anything about being a pilot, 13 exams.
It's intense.
Still on, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was all of 2024. Thrown in the middle of that was newborn twins, which has been contributed to why.
Toughest task,
yeah. I think it is people will expect me to talk about certain games or times in rugby, which was the hardest part of my life, but definitely having twins. I don't think anything comes close. It's just relentless.
That's intense.
And transitioning out of rugby into flying. But it was good. I was never bored, as the saying goes, be busy, not bored. And I was always busy. But I got through the exams. They were good. You had a bit of flying alongside, had to build up 100 hours of flying as well. So that was quite nice. My wife didn't always like it when I was leaving her to go and fly. But
so we're going to get more into that, and that's going to happen in March, right?
Yeah.
We're recording this at the moment in the middle of January.
Yeah.
That's going to be
so
March.
8 weeks today. I start
8 weeks today.
My new
And
job.
until then, it's full-time dad, taxi service.
That's it. Yeah. House husband.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good. I can put washing away and
Yeah.
I can do all the house jobs. I know my route around Tesco now. I can do it in my place. So, but no, it's good. It's nice that I can be around and help out a lot because the next year is going to be quite intense.
Yeah, brilliant. So this is the Leaders Unlocked podcast. You've got an amazing career and background in leadership and high performance, and different people, different businesses have different definitions of great leadership and what that looks like. For you, what does that look like? What does great leadership look like in your eyes?
Oh, I think the thing with leadership that I've learned is that there's so many ways to lead. So leadership can be defined in so many ways. You say the word leadership and your mind immediately goes to the big speech before a big Scotland game versus England or something like who's speaking in the change room beforehand. That's definitely a side of leadership, being able to motivate and bring people together. But then there's also sides like just quietly working hard, going about your business. Like if you are the ultimate professional in sport and rugby and working hard and you're first in the gym, last out, always doing your extras, your rehab, that's leadership. Leadership is ultimately traits that you can do that people will follow. And it often gets lost and dressed up as this big motivational speech kind of role. But in sport, the leadership I really value is the ones that are hardworking and just creating a set of behaviours that other people want to follow. Yeah.
Well, so many people talk about, they go straight away to leadership being around leading others.
Yeah.
Rather than it being, you've kind of touched upon there, leading yourself and those behaviours and that's just, hypercritical, because you always hear about the people on, whether they're football, rugby, or business, and they always say, okay, maybe they're not big talkers or motivational speeches and things, but people follow their lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so important in rugby. You have so many leaders in the team, and then you've also got the captain, which is different. And to be a captain, I believe you do have to be a leader, but being a captain, it is a bit more on the sort of the verbal side. Like, you have to be able to speak well, speak calmly under pressure, be able to see the bigger picture a lot of the time, take emotion out of it. You've got to be able to liaise with the referees well, because the referees play such a big part in games. So that's the kind of stuff captains have to deal with. And yeah, I think it often gets lost early on, because when you come through in rugby, I certainly was at school, I was the best player, so I was captain. And a lot of the time I've seen in teams that, he's playing well, he's, he might be really young, but he's playing well, let's make him captain because he's playing well. And I think that happened to me when I was early on in my Edinburgh career. I was made captain early on. I was playing well. I was probably one of the first names on the team sheet. And then you think, I'm captain, I need to change, I need to do everything differently, I need to speak loads, I need to be the motivator, I need to drag people with me. And suddenly your capacity for doing what got you there, actually, it takes up too much space, and it definitely affected my performance early on, because you end up thinking you need to do something different. So,
it's interesting. I think you've had an amazing career, and again, I'm a big rugby fan myself, so I can see you in that Edinburgh shirt and that, the Scottish rugby shirt and those big moments. And now you're going into another form of, huge public-facing leadership, if you like, in public eye in the commercial airlines. But if we take it back to, I guess, just mini Stuart growing up, what was that like? Take me back to kind of childhood and your upbringing, and what was that like?
Yeah, I've got such fond memories of growing up. Grew up with my brother, and I guess, like so many kids who end up in elite sport, was just thrown into every single sport when I was young. Golf, tennis, football, you name it. Rugby actually came a lot later.
Right.
But just had a really, really happy upbringing, and mum and dad were just so hardworking, and I had to definitely get, like, leading by example is my biggest leadership strength, I believe. And I get that from my parents.
Yeah.
Definitely. So my mum and dad's the smartest and hardest working person I know.
What did they do?
And dad's an actuary, so he worked for a long time in that, and then he retired. And mum's a maths teacher.
Okay.
Again, she retired over the last few years, which was great. Whenever I was stuck with math problems, I had mums and dads. Dad would show me like a cheat way that he'd learned at university, and mum would show me the actual way to do it to get all my marks.
I'm terrified about that. I've got a 3-year-old, and I've already got the fear about maths equations.
Oh, really? Yeah. I've got a math brain, so I'm actually quite looking forward to the helping. But yeah, just like, and for me, that's the best form of.
What behaviours were you seeing? What were you seeing, whether it's day to day or during a week, that you can now in reflection that you saw your mum and dad doing?
Just like working a lot. Like in the evenings, mum would be marking the papers, and I still remember where she would sit, and she would sit in front of the fire and do it, and we might be, playing on the PlayStation or whatever we used to do. But it's funny the things you do remember and the things that leave lasting memories on you, and that's why I'm now, as a dad, very aware of my behaviours around my kids. And dad worked really hard. He was away. There's times he worked down in London. We didn't see him during the week. He'd come back, but when he was back, he was very present. And I used to love going playing chess with my dad. Like, he was a big chess player. We used to go to chess tournaments and do that together, and that was really nice. But yeah, just on the whole, like a really, really good upbringing. And just I just feel really grateful for the way mum and dad just sort of taught us to be independent, but just they were so hardworking, it was hard to ever ignore that.
Yeah, I know. It's only now, when again we're in our 30s, and you kind of reflect on that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and you're in those scenarios, and you think, and you see, okay, I saw that. And what about, you mentioned you got one brother?
One brother, yeah.
What's the dynamic and age difference there?
He's 2 years older.
Okay.
I'm a lot bigger. So he never played rugby, or he was a good golfer.
Yeah.
We used to play tennis and stuff together, but he's He's an actuary, so he followed my dad's route, mathematical. I think he became an actuary to try and find out what it was an actuary did. And again, like me and Keith grew up sort of best buds, did everything together, and then he went sort of down the more musical route. He's a really good guitar player and singer now. He loves performing, and he does some great stuff, which is really sort of inspiring for me to see. And I went down the sort of sport route, and I remember because Keith never played rugby, and I think he tried it and decided it wasn't for him. And he just told me, "Oh, it's just a phase, Stuart. Like everyone plays rugby when they go to school for a little bit. We just moved to a school, and that was the sport they offered. And it was like, okay, yeah, it's a phase. You'll drop out of it and give it a year." And then I don't know if that made me like stubborn to keep going with it, but I just never seemed to shook it.
Yeah. And what was it like in terms of that siblings? Was it did you always tend to get on more than you didn't get on? Was there a real competitive streak alongside that, or what did that kind of look like?
We were competitive, like siblings, but like my overriding memory is just like really enjoying spending time together. And we like all our sports classes, we would do them together. So it was like our tennis class, we were in the same class, although there was an age difference. I remember doing tennis with Keith, gymnastics, football, golf, every Saturday. Like, again, really strong memories for me. I don't remember loads when I was like, 9, 10, 11, but I remember going to golf lessons every Saturday out at Melville, and have our coach, and we'd be on the drive range in the winter, on the golf course in the summer, just playing golf, and then McDonald's on the way home. And that was our like Saturday night ritual, and we loved it. It was brilliant. Look back really fondly on that, and definitely introducing the boys to McDonald's now, realise why it's such a good thing for kids. It's cheap and convenient,
and dads still love it as well.
I actually managed to hold off, but whenever I have McDonald's, I used to have it a lot after rugby games actually, because I wouldn't eat the day of the game. I would front load my calories the day before, and also I would get quite nervous, so I wouldn't be able to eat on game day. But there's a McDonald's near me that always kind of stayed open late, so I would always give them a bit of money after games and have it then.
I've got to ask, what's the order?
I would always get a large Big Mac meal, another Big Mac, and then a McFlurry. So I was never one for like boys like their chicken selects. Just give me a Big Mac any day. Give me 2.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So like even when you were young, there's a lot of sports you were it wasn't just rugby from day dot. There was a lot of different, quite a diverse spectrum.
Yeah. And that's the more I speak to athletes now, it's really common. The ones that are successful are the ones that were diversified when they were younger.
Yeah.
So the hand-eye coordination, all that stuff that comes with it, but just being social and being able to try things and learn and understand that you might not be, you're finding the sport that's right for you as well. So like I tried everything, and I can still pick up a tennis racket and play tennis now with my mates. I can still play golf, but it was rugby that the first one that I realized I was good at it.
To talk to me about that then, because I was gonna. It's sometimes difficult to remember the first time you picked up a rugby ball, but when was that moment that you kind of thought, wait a minute, I've got something about me here? And maybe it is when you get that captaincy given to you or whatever, but what was that kind of moment you thought, okay, I'm quite good at this game of rugby?
I don't know, I kind of go back to when I was in like first year at school. So I moved to Watson's in first primary 7. I never played rugby before, and I used it as very much as a way to make friends at a new school. And I did it for a bit in primary 7 and then realised it wasn't for me. I came from 𝐒𝐭𝐮𝐵𝐵𝐵, so we played football there. I was just wanting to play football. I was goalkeeper, as a lot of rugby players were back in the day.
It's a very common route,
isn't it? Yeah, everyone you speak to, football goalkeeper, played rugby.
Yeah.
And then, it was in sort of first year, I remember the PE teachers, because I was big, and they said, "Oh, you should play rugby, Stuart. You should give rugby a shot." And I ended up again going down, getting convinced to do it. I was in the 2s. I actually started off in like the 4s, and there's 4 teams. I was in the 4s for a while, and then the 3s, and then the 2s. But I remember playing really well in these games. Like, again, memories of like being one of the better players.
What position were you back then?
I was second row, I think, when I was at school. Were
you bigger?
First year. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was just tall and just loved carrying ball like that. Was and like tackling.
Yeah.
Quite important for rugby, I suppose. I was good at it, and I was bigger and enjoyed it, and I very quickly made my way up, I think, to the first. I remember the first ever game I played for the first. Again, little things that stick with you. First game for the S1s. I can't remember what they were called. S1 first team, and my dad came to watch. I was so pleased my dad had come to watch first game for the ones, and I think it was up at Edinburgh Academy, and the ball came and I picked it, and I was like a little pick and go. I picked dot, scored a try for the ones, and then I was so excited. Turned around to look at my dad, and he was watching the hockey. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I missed it.
That's very convincing. Honestly, it was a good try, Dad.
Yeah, I know I did. You missed it, and it's just so funny the things you remember.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
I was like, for goodness sake, like one time you come to watch, and
Really?
and you missed it. But no, I remember that. I remember then sort of second year. Again, I remember just enjoying my school rugby because I was good at it. And then it was kind of when you get into third year at school, and then fourth year, I think I was the only one in my year who was playing for the first 15.
Okay.
So that's when I kind of realized, okay, there could be something here. I do enjoy it. And then, that's when things started, like Edinburgh under 16s was like the team to play for. I remember like the guys in the year above me were all dressed in their Edinburgh under 16s hoodies and shorts, and thinking, I'd love
the dream.
I'd love to get some of that kit, and
get the stash.
Yeah, that's what it's about when you're 15 years old. And I remember getting my letter through. I still see it. Like, it was like Edinburgh under 16 integrated squad, and that was like my first invite from like a Scottish rugby representative team.
So Lions, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it felt like it. I was there, and then I remember actually, again, now we're talking about it, I remember missing the selection because I had the mumps when I was like 15, so I was really ill. And again, I'm like pestering my mum, like, I want to go to this training, Mum's like, you got the mumps, like, you can't do that, like, they don't want you there, like, trust me. So I was like, okay, missed it. I thought again, like when you're that, you think it's like the worst thing in the world. You think you missed your chance to make it. And then ended up, I was playing for my school, and then still got selected, which was good. But yeah, like playing under 16s was huge back then. It was like the first moment where you think, oh, I've been recognised. And again, little things like kit. It's so funny because like that was such a big motivator for me, was to get the Edinburgh under 16 kit. And when I got it, it was great. But then all I wanted was the Scotland under 17 kit after that. And that's kind of ultimately how my career ended up progressing, just always wanting something more.
Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously George Watson's is a very famous rugby and sporting school anyway.
Yeah.
You've always talked about your parents, whether it's your parents or maybe it's a PE teacher or coach, like who them was having kind of influence on you that you look back on that started to shape you as a person, a rugby player, and a future leader as well?
I'm not really sure if there was one particular coach. I remember my coach, like when I got identified by Scottish Rugby, I was maybe 16. And there was a coach called 𝐿𝐿𝐼, who was my like academy coach. He was assigned to me, and he was the guy that was in. He'd meet me after training and go through my games with me from school. So when you're 15, so it was amazing. And he'd have recorded all my games, clipped all my rucks, all my ball carries. And I remember like I was sitting with him in one of the little rooms in Watson's and going through games with me, which no one else was getting that in my school. So that felt really special. And we identified that my rucking was really bad. Like he said, I clipped like 18 rucks, and he said 17 of them I looked like I was pushing a shopping trolley. So he said, do you want to play for Scotland? You got to get better at this. So again, he taught me how to ruck. Like, again, I'd never really been taught properly how to do it. So about like driving, leading with the arm and grabbing and hitting with the shoulder. So he taught me that, taught me how to hit proper way. And I remember he'd hold the tackle bag and I would hit him. He was a big guy. And I used to enjoy trying to improve and trying to prove to him that I really wanted this. So yeah, he spent a lot of time with me, and he ended up being my Scotland under 17s coach as well. So it was really, really good transition. He definitely had the biggest influence on my sort of career, I think. And I've told him this since, and I always say the same thing, that we were in a under 17s team meeting, and I remember he went round and he was asking questions, and he's quite a scary character, Grant, especially when you're sort of 16. And he said, Stuart, who's your biggest competitor? And I sort of remember looking around the room, and there was a guy called Michael Maltman who was really, really quality back rower. And I remember saying, Michael, like, he's probably my biggest competition in this squad. And he said, you're wrong. He said, your biggest competition is yourself. And I'll always remember it because I never really quite understood what it meant. But then throughout my career, I really began to understand. And that is ultimately when I talk about how I've achieved what I've done and what high performance means to me. It's all about you versus you. So if every day the best version of myself was maybe when I was playing professional rugby, it was, arriving early. If my gym session was at 9 o'clock, I was there at 8:45 stretching or doing my prehab to warm up. Doing every rep of every set in the gym, pushing myself, recovering, turning up for meetings prepared, contributing to meetings, training really hard, pushing myself in all the fitness drills. If that's like the best version of me, how close can I get to that every single day? So that's the whole you versus you. That's how I took it anyway.
Yeah.
And accepting that you're not always going to be that best version is also really important, because some days you're just not going to have the energy.
But did that conversation like move the needle for you in terms of,
definitely.
And how did that look in practice in terms of, I can imagine being your teammate and, seeing that in action, but is that something that kind of materialized pretty quickly and you kind of felt that acceleration in your development?
Yeah. It also evolved a lot. Like I became I was like obsessed by it towards like the middle stages of my career. Like ultimately when I was probably playing my best rugby, like mid-20s, playing for Scotland. I was obsessed with crossing all the I's, dotting the T's, being like the best version of myself every week to give myself the best chance to play well, especially when I was playing for Scotland, because I didn't want to let people down. Like, it was such a big honour. But I always go back to that conversation when I was 16 as kind of, I think it's really good to be competitive, right? If you want to be elite. And you get different types of people that are competitive. You get the ones that are competitive with each other. I just want to beat you, and I don't care if your level's here and I just need to be a little bit better, then I'd be happy as long as I beat you.
Yeah.
Whereas my competition always came with, well, what did I do last time? If it's a run in a Bronco or one of the fitness drill, what did I get last time? I want to be better than that.
Yeah.
I don't care what my competition does, because ultimately I'm never going to be my bet unless I'm competing with myself. And that's how I felt I managed to sort of get ahead of my competitors, because I was never bothered about being better than someone else in my position. I just was more,
of course,
concerned about trying to be better than I was yesterday.
Which is so much more controllable.
Yeah.
Like you kind of lose that stress of, what are they doing? How are they doing it? If you can just better yourself, it can be difficult, but I think it gives you that a little bit more of control and peace of mind, I guess.
Yeah, and freedom. Like you're not. I'm never worried if I get, someone else has had a really good game in my position. I think, because he's played well, I might not play next week. It's like that's something that I can't control. What I can control is, trying to improve my scrummaging or throwing or ball carrying. I've got a really good drill I'm going to work on this week. I've seen it online. I'm going to do that. And and it takes the stress off about worrying about what other people are doing, because I'm never worried if anyone else has a good game or not. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to make me train any harder.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that drives me is to squeeze every drop out of whatever I can achieve.
Of course. So when you're 16, 17, is it kind of like, okay, I want that to go all the way at this? I want to play for Scotland? Or what does like that career aspiration look like for you at that stage?
Yeah, I definitely want it. When I was sort of 16, playing for Scotland under 17s, I definitely wanted to play for Scotland. Yeah. I kind of decided then that I was going to do it. It probably sounds a bit arrogant, or I don't know what word you want to use, but there was nothing that I could see was going to stop me, more so because I knew my work ethic rather than anything else. I remember being really inspired in 2006 watching Jason White lift the Calcutta Cup. Yeah. If you were there.
Yeah. I wasn't there, no, but I remember watching it.
I remember going to, really vivid memory, going to the game with all my schoolmates. We went to Burger King above the old Apple shop in Edinburgh. Or maybe it was I don't know where it was, but we went to Burger King before, then walked along Princes Street all the way to Murrayfield, Scotland top, underneath my jacket because it was freezing. Watching Jason White lift the Calcutta Cup and being so inspired by the way you can affect people's happiness by the way they played rugby. And I remember being so inspired that day, and I remember seeing Jason White lift the Calcutta Cup and thinking, I'd love to do that. Literally, I could tell you where I was sitting. I could see the view. I could see where he was, lifted it. And I just remember thinking, I'd love to do that. And then, the Scotland top went over the jacket for the way home. Scotland flag on the back. And it was just a really special day. And Again, it's not really, I never really thought loads about it when I was, you know, in my career, but definitely reflecting on it, little moments like that make such a like a lasting impression on you, and ultimately shaped my direction.
Big time. And then so how does that start looking in terms of the steps into getting spotted and then getting into those professional contracts and things? What's that kind of transition look like? Because I know for a lot, whether it's football, rugby, anybody that's got that aspiration to go into professional sport, that's where there's obviously a tipping point of people that want all that and they don't quite get there, and it can be a real heartache and the rest of it. But what does that next 3 or 4 years look like as you take that step up from school to then to that professional life? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, I followed a really like traditional route with it. So I was left school, was identified by Scottish Rugby as an academy player. Back then it was, you know, you got paid £9,000 a year to come and train with the National Academy. Did that for 2 years while playing for Watsonians, which again, I loved playing for Watsonians. Like my first step into adult rugby, really played like, I don't know, 20 games a season, built up a real sense of durability in my muscles as well. I think like I had a relatively good career injury wise. And I put it down to being able to come straight out of school, play a really good level of rugby, senior rugby when I was 18, get a good amount of games under my belt, and then go into the pro games. I think nowadays guys come out of school and maybe go into senior rugby a bit too quick. The exposure to the training's probably the big one. Whereas when I was 18, 19, we would have our own academy sessions and they'd be much less impactful than the team. I remember watching like Edinburgh train and thinking, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Whereas now, like, in a way, it's good. Like, guys get exposed way earlier, but I quite enjoyed the sort of comfort of the National Academy back then, and putting my time into playing for Watsonians, and also being able to enjoy playing club rugby and enjoying the buses and, you know, going out after it. And like, that was all really good memories for me.
Yeah.
But that was always, you know, a stepping stone for me to try and get a professional contract. And it was 2 years in the academy. Played for Scotland under 20s, so captained them in my second season with them, and then it was in with Edinburgh, and that was like my first big dream, was to get a contract with Edinburgh.
Amazing. Yeah, well, I remember. So I grew up in the Scottish Borders, played for Melrose through age group levels. Didn't play for the first team. I left the Borders at 18, but I remember just it's the best thing about rugby, you know, the club on a Saturday, people, the community, and it's the same thing even at that. It's like, how do you get some of that stash?
Yeah, I know.
The first team.
Exactly.
And obviously Melrose Sevens is hugely prestigious.
Yeah.
And a couple of my mates and the boys in the year below me and above me started playing for Melrose and got to play at the Sevens, and it was kind of like the Super Bowl of the Borders, you know? But you see the stepping stone they then made into profession, and it's cool to see. And I think definitely it's obviously a different world now in that regard. But you can see that stepping stone that really sets them up for going to play like men's rugby.
Yeah.
So then you're getting the contract professionally with Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Take me inside that. What's the Edinburgh rugby team looking like then? Who's the coach? What's your role? How do you find your feet in the first kind of 6 to 12 months in that?
Really struggled, if I'm honest. Like, definitely had imposter syndrome. So, you know, Chris Patterson, Ross Ford, Mike Blair, Alan Jacobson, Jim Hamilton, Scott McLeod. Ali Hogg again. Ali Hogg was another huge sort of role model for me growing up. Like, absolutely killing it for Scotland every time he played. Scrum cap on, running in tries. I remember like trying to play like Ali Hogg. It's like he was in and around the team. He actually left the season I got made pro. But yeah, just like a proper, surrounded by players that I'd grown up admiring, and watching these guys play for Scotland. Suddenly I was like an equal with them, like not quite an equal, but I was in the team and I was one of the 40 odd in the Edinburgh rugby squad, and definitely just tried to keep my head down and work hard, which is ultimately just who I am, and I was quite happy with that, but didn't feel overly, I don't know, confident to express myself. I definitely very much felt like I was a first year pro, and that I guess I just didn't feel, if I'm honest, I didn't really feel good enough to be there.
Right.
Which definitely lacked a lot of confidence, and that definitely held me back for the first couple of years. it's just funny because it's like all I'd wanted, and then I got there and I was a bit like, oh, I didn't really know if I should be here.
Yeah. And what you're hearing from coaches at that time, you're obviously in your own head a little bit in terms of, am I meant to be here?
Yeah.
You're playing with some of the most famous people that have ever worn, the Scottish Rugby jersey in Edinburgh. Like, what are you hearing from coaches in terms of the opportunity and that feedback loop at the time?
Don't remember loads. Rob Moffat was the coach, and he was brilliant because I'd had him with the under-20s as well.
Right.
So I already had that personal relationship with him. But ultimately, I don't remember a hell of a lot, to be honest. I just remember being overwhelmed, and like I definitely don't think I played particularly well in the first few years at Edinburgh. Played actually a fair bit because the budget was so small back then. The chief exec at the time, I think he was brought in to reduce the deficit because Scottish Rugby were struggling a bit financially, and so the budget for the pro team was like 3 million or something like that, 3 or 4 million, so much less than it is now. So by sheer, there was only 6 back rows in the whole squad, and there was always a couple injured, and I was one of the 6, so I always ended up playing. But yeah, I never really felt like coming off the under-20s where I feel like I was one of the best players and was playing really well and was confident. I was then, not playing particularly well. I didn't think. Sort of felt my career kind of plateau a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of your first eyes on that professional changing room culture. And what were some of the behaviours that you observed, whether it's from some of the senior players and leadership, that, and maybe in reflection now, that you kind of took forward and that from what you learned at the time?
I always remember Chris Patterson like being amazing with the young guys. So he was always someone who was the leader of the team, and he was whether he was captain or not, he was someone that was so hugely respected. But he always made so much time for the young lads as well. So again, something I learned from leadership is you won't always remember what people say or how they act, but you'll always remember how they make you feel. Yeah. And I always remember how, like, you'd walk down the corridor and Mossy would say, "Morning, Rambo, how's it going?"
Yeah.
You'd have a chat, and then some of the guys wouldn't do that. So you'd always remember the ones that did make time for you, and that's something I took forward to when I became captain at Edinburgh and being a leader was making sure we got the best out of our young guys by making sure they felt like they knew they could be themselves and be there, and because our younger guys in Edinburgh were like, they're our biggest asset because they were the ones who are going to drive this club forward, and they're also really talented as well. Like some of the Blair Kinghorn was coming through, and we had to get these guys playing at their best, and we didn't want them being intimidated or felt like they couldn't express themselves. So I remember taking that forward into my leadership.
Yeah, it is that thing, isn't it? It's like, how do you make people feel comfortable, but also knowing that they are in like that environment, that there are high standards. And I'm intrigued to hear you talked around that feedback that you got in those early days being at school of the only person you need to beat is yourself. Like, behaviorally, what you were doing and that kind of high performance mindset, even then, what did that look like when you were going through some of that challenging time and a bit of self-doubt? How did those two different mindsets, if you like, kind of collide, and what was that kind of looking like?
Those 2 years when I was my first sort of 2 years pro were probably the years I kind of lost that you versus you. Like definitely feel like I wasted those first 2 years. Because I didn't really back myself, and I'd sort of been so overwhelmed by the opportunity of playing for Edinburgh that I kind of forgot about improving. So I worked so hard to get that pro contract, and I was so diligent in everything. I would still, so we'd play for Watsonians on a Saturday. I remember we'd go out on a Saturday night, but on a Sunday I'd get up and go to the gym if I felt like I had the energy, because I would, sweat out the years, and because I was like, these are the 1%ers that are going to matter. And then I got in my first professional contract with Edinburgh, and looking back, I just thought that the environment was going to take care of it for me. Like, I thought I didn't need to have this mindset anymore. I thought being a pro, I'll be training, when I was playing for Watsonians in the academy, I was only training a little bit, so I was having to do my extra training. So I remember thinking, it's easy now. It's a full-time job. I was getting paid a salary, and all the gym sessions are there and the training sessions are there. I don't need to do any extras. Like, I can just turn up, do my schedule, and I'll go home. And I remember first couple of years, that's what I did. And I thought that's what was needed. Turn up, do your job, go home, and I would just sit on the sofa and play Call of Duty. And in my head, I was never a bad professional, but I thought that was good enough. And then that's probably, again, when I go back to talking about it, when I felt my career was plateauing, I realised that there's so much more you need to do. Like if you have, like I wanted to captain Scotland, like that was my big goal from as long as I can remember. Like talk about watching Jason White lift the 𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐫𝐿, like you only do that if you're captain. So standing at the front of the tunnel, leading out Scotland to lift the 𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐫𝐿, that was a huge goal of mine.
Yeah.
And it's an exceptional goal. And I realized that like that requires more than just following a schedule and turning up on time. Like I always turned up on time, always worked hard in the gym, always trained well.
Yeah.
But when training was done, that was kind of me. I was done. Whereas fast forward that to when I was playing my best rugby and through right up to the last day of my career as a professional rugby player, that was kind of the whistle would go at the end of training, and that's when I would start thinking, right, where can I grow now? What drills can I do?
What did you? How bad did it get in terms of when you're going through that tough time? Because 2 years is a long time, particularly when it's you're in it. And how bad did it get? What maybe some of the conversations you're having, whether it was with family or friends, or did you keep it kind of internally? But what was your kind of your thought process, and maybe some of the conversations you're having with your nearest and dearest?
Yeah, I don't remember like struggling. I don't remember not enjoying it. I remember just feeling like I wasn't good enough yet. And I remember, sort of when I had a 2-year contract, and then that got extended another 2 years. And it was when I was watching like guys that I'd grown up playing under 20 rugby with, and I felt like, I was the captain and I was one of the best players, and I was the guy that people were tipping to go on and play for Scotland. And I was, to be fair, from my age like 20, 21, I was invited into Scotland men's training camps. Like Andy Robinson invited me in. I remember training with him on the back pitches at Murrayfield, and again, like I was identified early. But then I remember watching a lot of my mates who I'd played under 20s with play for Scotland before me.
Right.
That's when I kind of realized, like, I've hit a bit of a plateau here. Like I should be kicking on, and I'm not.
And what were you almost? You've taken a step back and actually almost self-evaluating. What's the why in your mind there? Like, what are you landing on in terms of the why you thought your peer group were kind of taking over you?
I don't really know, if I'm honest. The guys, I was always quite good at everything as a rugby player. Like I was quite a good tackler, I was quite a good carrier. Yeah. Especially when I played back row. But I don't think I ever really had a USP like someone like David Denton, who a good friend of mine. He burst onto the scene early. He was an exceptional ball carrier. Like he had a real USP, whereas I never felt I had anything that was saying we need to pick Stuart because he's like outstanding at this. I was aware of that, but I was also like, that was part of my game. I used to love carrying ball, but again, I found the step up to professional be really challenging, because going to play for Watsonians, it still wasn't that physical. Suddenly I was playing professional rugby against, Edinburgh Leinster. I was playing against Brian O'Driscoll and Johnny Sexton and Stephen Ferris for Ulster, and these guys are big, and I couldn't run over them. I couldn't get an inch on them. So suddenly my sort of, I don't know, my strength had kind of, I realised I wasn't quite good enough when you're playing against British Lions every week. But I don't really know. It just took me a little bit longer to come through in that regard.
And what changed? Because it did change. You obviously went on to have an incredible career. Over 170 caps for Edinburgh and 49 caps for Scotland. What changed in that moment after those 2 years where, it kind of started to ultimately change in front of your eyes?
Yeah, it was really clear. I was involved in, I was on the bench I did eventually, I did a leadership course. The guys that looked after my contract at Red Sky Management, they had a connection with Toward Business School, I think it is, and they had a spot going, and they sort of said, "Oh, sure, you should do this. It's good for your leadership." And they knew I wanted to ultimately captain Scotland one day, and so I did it. And we did an ancient you exercise where you sort of picture yourself, an ancient version of yourself, and they said, where are you? I was on a beach in Portugal, a glass of wine, retired, and they said, you're looking back on your career and you've achieved everything you ever want. Like, how do you feel? And I remember saying, I feel great. Like, I feel content, proud, just really pleased. And I could picture myself. I'd lifted the 𝐭𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐫𝐿 and played loads for Scotland, made a real difference to Scottish rugby. And he said, that's great. You know, you feel good now. I want you to go to a different beach. It's maybe not quite as warm, a bit more rocky. Wine doesn't taste quite as good. And you look back on your career and you never really changed your behaviors. You kind of kept being a mediocre professional and never really achieved what you wanted. Like, how do you feel? And I remember getting quite emotional in that moment. My eyes were closed and I could feel my eyes going. And I was like, Christ, this really matters to me. Like, it's actually part of who I am. And that was the moment I realized that I needed to do more. I had an exceptional goal of wanting to captain my country, and that required exceptional behaviors. Yeah. And I didn't really realize that. I realized at that time I was probably acting like someone who wanted to just have like a solid pro career, whereas I wanted to do something a lot more. So I learned in that moment I needed to change. I looked at why I wasn't playing for Scotland already. So we had Kelly Brown, Johnny Beattie, and these guys playing in my positions, John Barclay. And I remember thinking, like, okay, they're all ahead of me. Why are they playing? Why am I not playing? And it was quite obvious, like, they were much bigger physically than I was, much better defenders, and they were fitter. Like, they got through a lot more work than I did. So I identified those three areas, so defence, strength, fitness, and I started working on them. And I started grabbing my mates after training and asking if I could tackle them, like developing this attitude and set of behaviours that was about improvement and trying to just squeeze every drop out of being better. And so improving my tackling, improving my tackle dominance, like trying to find drills that worked for me, speaking to guys within the team that were good defenders and saying, how, like, I see you're really dominant with your collisions, like, how do you do it? And, you know, they talk about their lead foot or their technique they used, and I would copy them. I remember training on a Tuesday and going down to David Lloyd's in the evening and doing running sessions and rowing sessions to try and get fitter. This is maybe when I was like 22. And then, yeah, like after training, instead of going home and playing Call of Duty, I would go into the gym and do some extra weights because I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to get more physical. I put on a good few kilos. I got a lot fitter and I was a much better defender. 6 months later, I was on the bench for Scotland. It was my first involvement. So I remember Scotland versus South Africa, 17th of August, 2012. 67,000 people coming, and I made the bench for the first time. It was amazing. So I kind of realized that, this does work. Like, if you identify your areas of growth and you work on them, you get better. And that was a kind of a big moment for me where I realized, okay, like, it's not by chance that I'm sat now in the Scotland dressing room. This has happened on purpose because I made a plan and I stuck to it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's, you know, it's crazy how much it was almost an overnighter in terms of you realizing, I'm going to own this. And you do want to be on that sunny beach with a really nice wine and being able to reflect on it. And we're going to come to it in a little bit, and I know how much mentorship means to you, both right now and in the longer term, and being able to support people on a similar journey, similar challenges, and being able to really open up their mind and let them step into that space to actually own what's going to get them to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And you kind of touched upon it there, some of the behaviours. How does that now manifest for itself for you now in terms of some of the conversations you have? Because you had that almost enlightening moment, woke up the next day and did something about it, and the ugly work to then start achieving your ultimate goal 6 months later.
Yeah.
How does that start looking for you now, and some of your learns and how you can kind of pass that on?
Yeah. I guess mentorship for me is, I had a really good mentor, Rowan Shepherd at Red Sky. He was in the rugby circles, he'd be seen as like an agent, but he's so much more than that. He's like a mentor who would negotiate my contract as well. And he was ultimately the first person I'd call for guidance, or if I was injured and I was feeling down, and he'd be there just nudging me back in the right direction. So I was lucky that I had him. But yeah, now I found myself naturally becoming a mentor throughout my career as well. And it's really simple. Like, you can dress it up and make it, a lot of people look for quick fixes or look, what's the magic secret to success and all this stuff. But it all comes down to setting a goal for me. So it was always about captaining Scotland. That's what I wanted to do. Lift the Calcutta Cup. And then you have to find what behaviours are going to get you there. So, if you set an ambitious, really, really exceptional goal, you need to apply exceptional behaviors every day. What you're doing will look different to other people because you have bigger goals. So I would always worry that I was doing extras after training and no one else was, or some people were, most people weren't. And people would look at me and be like, why is he doing that? Or I'm just trying to show off in front of the coaches. And it was never about that. It was, maybe the people that went inside after, they were quite happy being professional players with Edinburgh, and that was they were happy with their career with that, whereas that wasn't just what I wanted. So you have to be okay that your path is going to look a little bit different. If you have an exceptional goal, that you need to be behaving in a different way. So I just try and now talk about mentorship briefly. That's kind of what I base it on. But mentorship ultimately is about just guiding people on the right path. Like I see, especially in the early years, there's a really common trait in rugby that I've seen guys come through, they get the first professional contract. And I was kind of in this boat myself, like they sort of float through the first couple of years, then they get a kick up the arse, whether that's you might not get another contract, or they get an injury and they're not playing, and it's a bit like, oh, we might not keep you. And then they either, one of two things happen. Either they go, oh, screw it, I'll just go and do something else, and they go to uni and they drop out, or they go and play for a different team. Or they say, oh no, I really want this. And then they switch their behaviours and they get back on that path. And then they have a really good career. And I just think the couple of years that I wasted, I want to get rid of them for the athletes that I work with. So that's what I work on.
And now in that, you're massively, I know from a couple of conversations, you're hugely, purpose-driven, and you really do want to help people with their careers.
Yeah.
The why, that's so important. Does it come back to almost those moments in your career? Is that almost the biggest inspiring factor for that, or...
What, as in why I want to help other people?
Like you've almost kind of unlocked your potential through some of those mentorship conversations, or is there a broader picture behind that?
I think when you're a leader, I mean, caring about people is just part of who I am. Like I learned that about myself, and just fits really well. And like I can't, if I see an opportunity to help someone, like I want to help them. And at times in my career, that's probably been to my detriment. I've sort of helped others before helping myself. But I wouldn't change it. That's just who I am. I can't help that. So I'm always like aware that, I just want to, if I can see a bit of growth in someone and there's something they could be doing differently, and just trying to nudge them on the right path. But also as well, you have to accept that what worked for me might not work for everyone. And it's mentorship and guiding people isn't about me creating a team full of Stuart McInallys. It's about making sure that every player is able to be their best, whatever that looks like and whatever they need. I always say to young athletes, like some people say, oh, I'm going to stop going on nights out with my mates. I said, why? Do you not enjoy it? And they said, no, I do, but like I'm be professional, so I need to. I was like, you can still go out. You don't need to get hammered. Like you can just have a few drinks if you want, or you can, like I used to go out with my mates, especially you're leaving school, and your mates are all having 18th parties and stuff, and you do feel like you miss out on a lot.
Yeah.
But
you've got to wear the stash somewhere as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. How else are they going to know? But yeah, just like saying, like, don't give that up, because you can burn yourself out easily. Like you still have to do things that you enjoy doing. Yeah. But again, your behaviours might look different to your mates that are going out till 3 a.m. You might call it a bit earlier, and I would always go out with my mates, but I would again call it a bit earlier, and I would go up and get up. And I remember the Galleon at Watson's, there was like a gym, and I would just go and run the treadmill for half an hour, and that was my way of being, doing something a little different, and like accepting that my behaviours needed to be different.
Yeah, great. So then you kind of went to it, but you start kind of reaching your pinnacle of some of your goals. I know you want to get to ultimately to the top of lifting the Calcutta Cup, but really a few notches up the ladder, you're called up to that squad for the South African game.
Mm-hmm.
Take me to the moment you get that call up and you find out that you're going to be part of the Scotland squad to begin with, because that must be an incredible moment that most young boys and girls dream of. So
it was I remember it was the autumn Nations squad. It wasn't called the Autumn Nations, it was like autumn tests. And I just remember getting an email, and it was just an email that came through one evening. And
did you get a heads up?
No. So the squad would be announced to the press on Wednesdays, and I think we would get an email on Tuesday night. And it was just Scotland selection, and it was like, you've been selected, congratulations, here's the schedule, here's where you need to report, here's a list of who else is in the squads. And we were up in St Andrews, and it was like, we were staying at the old course, and I was like, wow, this is Phil, I want to do more of this. And the first thing was like a yo-yo test. It was like the fitness test they used to do back in the day. And I was running alongside like Ross Rennie and Kelly Brown and these guys. I was like just trying to keep up with them. I remember like dying. But just like wanting to show them that I deserved to be there. I did fine.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it was so special. And again, like going in the kit room and seeing like a full bag of kit, you know, branded, you know, SM, my initials. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And this is, again, just a bit of vindication for what all the hard work has paid off. And yeah, it's just really special and thinking, right, this is where I want to be. Like I was playing well for Edinburgh at that time, sort of got over the sort of insecurities I had early on and really felt like I deserved to be in that squad. And didn't make the first game was against New Zealand and I wasn't playing. And then I remember one of the back rows got injured. I think it was maybe 𝐿𝐿𝐴 and I was next. I knew I was kind of next in line. So I was a bit like, right, the start, we get really nervous. And then, Monday, I remember going to the physio room and Al's on the physio bed and he's like, oh, it's no good for me, Rambo, this week. Like, make sure you're ready. So you get whispers. Coach just starts speaking to you. Make sure you know your roles this week for all 3 back row positions. You might need to. And I was like, okay, team hadn't been announced yet, but I'm already starting to get a bit nervous. And then, it was just like a whiteboard back in the day. It's all really cool now. Like, reductions are amazing. You sit in team rooms and it's a really special, moment when the team goes up. But it used to just be like a whiteboard, flip the chart over, right, there's the team. Make sure you know who you're playing with, make sure you know what positions you might be covering. And I saw I was number 19. And I remember thinking, I was like, here we go. Gonna get my first cap.
Unbelievable. So when you get that email through, who's the first people you're telling? What does that look like? Is there tears in the eyes before, or like how does that?
No, there's no tears in the eyes. Again, the goal for me was never to play for Scotland. It was to play a lot for Scotland, make a real difference in Scottish rugby and captain my country. That was what I wanted to do. So it was kind of...
So even then you kind of, listen, this is just part of my journey. It was almost just like, it's very cool and awesome. I'm here, but it's just, this is, I'm on my journey here.
I didn't dream of, I don't know, it's funny.
Because a lot of people when they get to that stage will have been, they've almost arrived, you know?
But I get that. But I was never fussed about getting one cap. I could have got one cap and been a bit disappointed. Whereas for other people, and this is also totally fine, like get one cap and it's amazing. They would give anything for one.
We're doing after dinners for the next 20 years on that.
I know, exactly. I know, but that's also fine. But it was never what I wanted. And I wanted something more, and I wanted a long career in it. And I remember being proud, and I remember thinking, right, we're on the right track here.
How'd your parents react and your brother?
Yeah, they were chuffed. Yeah, they were funny. They're very level-headed with it all because they don't know rugby. So we never grew up watching rugby as a family. So like I said, I'm in the Scotland squad for the autumn, and they'd be like, what, is there games in the autumn? Like, that's cool. Who are you playing? And I was like, oh, New Zealand, South Africa and Tonga. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. They don't know New Zealand are the best team in the world. Like, but I remember, I think my mum and dad realised how special it was because for your first cap, so your first involvement, I was on the bench, and mum and dad got a tour around the change room beforehand. So they got to go in the change room. They saw my shirt, my name embroidered on it. There was a space for where your cap number would go, but it would never go on until you played
on the pitch.
So there was a space where everyone else kind of had their cap numbers. Mine was blank. And then they're at Murrayfield and there's 68,000 people there. And they kind of realised, oh, this is quite special.
I've seen you talk recently, I think you actually wrote about it, and how no matter how many times you played, you got nervous.
Oh, yeah.
So I want you to talk a little bit around that more on broader, but also on that day, and how that you felt in your body both at the start, but then when you're sitting on the bench thinking, okay, the time's going to go 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and that you're going to get called.
Yeah, very. I mean, I always nervous throughout my whole career, but I mean, times about 100 for your first cap, and you just want to play well. Like, you just want to play well and you want your team to win. Like, that's all you really want. And you don't want to be the one that costs them the game. Like, that was always a big thing I had to battle in my career, was not wanting to let people down and not wanting to make mistakes, which isn't the way to think at all. But certainly early when I was 22, just didn't want to let people down. And I remember being so nervous, didn't eat at all on game day. Couldn't, and that was again not totally unusual. Like I had them in big games for Edinburgh as well. So, but yeah,
it's probably different from when you're in different roles, but how does that impact you? Are you quite quiet? Do you kind of just stick to yourself?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just shut away in my room, watching my iPad and sort of, just kind of, it's a horrible day, game day for players. It's not a nice day, especially if like a later kickoff, because you're just waiting around and the nerves don't go until you get on the pitch. But so it's, in a way, it's nicer when you're on the bench because you don't really get nervous until the first whistle goes and you're thinking I could be on any second. Whereas when you're starting, you're nervous all day, but you know that come a certain times you're just into a game of rugby.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you know it's coming. You learn to accept the nerves are going to be there. But yeah, no, sorry. Back to the first cap or that day, I remember being very nervous and being on the bench, didn't get on the first half. And then at like 50 minutes in the second half, I think one of the back rows was tightening up.
Right.
So the call comes up, can we get Rambo ready? So like we're all sitting in the stands and it's like Rambo go down and I'm like, oh, okay, right, I have a seat.
Which is your nickname?
Yeah. And then everyone's like, go well, like go on, congrats mate, go on, make sure you go well when you get on. And I'm thinking, right, I'm just going to try and do my job. I know my roles. And so I went down, just sat on the bike, turned my legs over, get ready. So that when the call came, I was ready. And that was maybe like 50 minutes. And then like 60 minutes, I'm still on this bike and I'm like, right, I'm ready to go. Like just desperate to get on. Knew it was going to come any second. And then 70 minutes, my other subs are going on before me. And I'm like, not in my position, but, I remember thinking, right, come on, my legs are knackered here. I've been cycling for 20 minutes. But I'm still ready to go like whenever. It was a really close game. I think we just scored, so it brought it back to within a score, which is ultimately why at 80 minutes I was still on the bike, didn't get on. And I remember being devastated, like from thinking that you're going to get that moment with your family and get presented with your first cap and again the next step on the ladder. I remember being devastated. I remember like looking up to the coach's box like 78 minutes trying to get his attention in case he'd forgotten about me.
Coach then?
Andy Robinson. But it was a tight game and like I was Kelly Brown and Johnny Beattie, Barkley, they were all on and I probably wouldn't have put me on either if I was them looking back. But obviously devastated. But also just like definitely reaffirmed that is where I'm on the right path. And I knew I was going to get another shot. I didn't realize I was going to have to wait a couple of years. But it was a funny old experience because it was kind of vindication of all the work I'd done, but also just devastated I missed out.
Yeah. Still go for McDonald's?
Don't think so. After that, I think it was a Chinese. Yeah.
Brilliant. But then when you're in that changing room and in terms of rugby, high performance and that elite level doesn't get much higher than that in terms of playing Springboks at Murrayfield.
No. What's
the energy, the conversations, I guess just the vibe like in the changing room on a day like that?
If we're talking about that day specifically, I don't remember loads, if you're honest. I could talk a bit more later in the career.
Yeah.
Certainly, we played the Springboks in maybe around about 2019, 2020, 2021, something like about that. And you're very aware you're playing the best team in the world or one of the best teams in the world, but you're also very focused on just playing the best that we can play. Like some of my best memories from playing for Scotland are around that time where we were very focused on inspiring the nation. And that was like our big value, if you like, or what really
was that just always talked about, or did
talked about?
Did a specific leader bring that to the fore, or was that kind of
Gregor? Every meeting it was on. Like we'd play games, and I remember playing. I think we played. Who did we play? We played Samoa. In the first game of the 2018 autumn, I think, or 2017 autumn. And we were going to the New Zealand week, and the first pictures of, the crowd going nuts when we beat Samoa. And, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. We win for Scotland. We're inspiring the nation. And our goal was to inspire the nation against New Zealand as well. And we had a really clear purpose that day because Doddie Weir was going to present the match ball. We were donating our jerseys to the My Name's Doddie Foundation. It was all just sort of starting back then. So we had real motivation and purpose. But yeah, it was all about inspiring the nation, like giving people something to cheer about, trying to show people parts of themselves when you're playing. Like I always remember that was something that was instilled in us, where it's like people come to Murrayfield, they just want to see bits of themselves. They want to see the fight that Scottish people are known for. And they want to see us express ourselves. They want to see us score tries. Like you think back to the years of the Grand Slam, with Scotland, like that's Scottish rugby, and they're our roots, and it's important we remember them. And that was an amazing day, and that's also kind of where I learned a bit more about myself, and the reason that I played rugby is to create memories and inspire the generation, because we played New Zealand that day, and we played really well. I was 3-0 at half time, but it was a cracking game. Like, 3-3 at half time maybe. And then they scored a couple of tries. I think they got it to 17.
Stuart Hogg goes into touch in the last few minutes.
Yeah. So again, it was.
I was in a pub.
You've just given the ending away, but we ran it.
Edit that.
Yeah, we got it back, and anyway, I remember that moment. So we were sort of in it, chance to win it. Full time whistle goes. We just lost at Murrayfield, and the whole crowd were chanting Scotland.
Yeah,
which has probably only happened once in my whole career when we've lost a game.
Well,
and that was that day, and that's when I remembered. Well, that's when I kind of realised that winning is so important when you play international rugby. It's ultimately what we're judged on. But we inspire people that day. By the way,
we were playing the best in the world.
We were playing the best in the world, and we had no right to get them as close as we did, and we did. And they went full strength against us, and it was a big test. But we went toe to toe with them, and people were proud of us because they'd seen the fight, and they'd seen the passion, and they'd seen the style of rugby that they wanted to see, and they were proud of us. And I remember being hugely disappointed that we'd lost the game, because we chance to beat the All Blacks, first Scottish men's team to beat the All Blacks, and we didn't do it. But I also remember feeling really proud that we'd put our best version out that day.
Yeah, brilliant. There'll be a lot of people listening to this that run businesses, or again, they lead themselves, so they're part of a team, and they'll have a mission or a vision, and it might be something along the lines of what you had that day of inspire the nation. How does that then look in practice in terms of what you're then holding to account as it relates to behaviours and what you want to see from each individual on that pitch during the week, but then when the whistle goes on the Saturday?
Yeah, it's sort of having a purpose, if you like, that's sort of bigger than any one person in that team is so important, and because it's never about anything other than the challenge ahead of us, to inspire the nation by being the first Scottish team to beat the All Blacks. Like, that's special, and that's something that we could only do if we all came together. We spoke about themes last week, and like having strong themes and storytelling, like it's a really important part of leadership, and trying to get people on the same page, because inherently trying to bring a group of people together to win a game of rugby, some people might be inspired by that, but it probably doesn't do it for a lot of people. Whereas if you can sell a vision of doing it for Doddy, doing it for the people of Scotland, creating a legacy as the first Scottish team to beat the All Blacks, suddenly that gets quite exciting. And then that demands exceptional standards in training. And that's what you kind of have to go back to, is like, lads, if we want to put actions to these words, we're going to have to train harder than we trained last week. We got to be better. We got to be in every single moment. Like, the All Blacks might only give us 2 chances in the whole game. We have to take them. Here's how we're going to take them. These are the plays we're going to do. And then a lot of it comes back to the leadership group as well, and how calm they can be under pressure, and the decisions they make. But for me, back to the question, it's all about just having a real purpose, a real sense of why. Why am I going to work and cover every blade of grass just to like maybe make a tackle that I might never make, but I'm going to try because there's a purpose bigger than me out there today.
And at that stage, you're obviously a leader in the team, and when do you start finding that role in where it's Edinburgh and Scotland, and you start realizing, all right, people are looking at me here, and they're following me, and you've got a real role there. And you talked about the senior players or the leadership team, and take me through that moment of when you're starting to realize people are following you, and how you set the tone in a week or in training.
Yeah, I don't really know if there was any like moment where I realized that I've sort of spoke to people since, and they say that my best form of leadership was just the way I was and the way I acted and trained hard. And then when you play well and you're doing all your extras after, and people are saying, oh, he's played really well and he's also working this hard, like maybe I should do a bit of that as well. And then you start having people wanting to join in your drills that you'd maybe doing after training. So like I might identify that of my left shoulder tackle and wasn't particularly dominant. I'm going to do a bit of work on that. I might be working on that, and then someone will come along and say, what are you working on? I'm saying, I'm just working on my tackles dominance because it was a bit down last week. Can I join in? Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. So those are moments you remember where you sort of think, oh, okay, I'm onto something here. Like, behaviors go a long way in rugby leadership about it, because ultimately, if you're not doing it, what reason has anyone else got to do it? Exactly. Other than if they find their own way of being self-driven. What you're really trying to do is get the guys who are a bit unsure. Because in an elite environment like the Scottish rugby team, everyone's at a very good standard of rugby. They can all play rugby. They all know about rugby. Yeah. You're just trying to find the odd 1%ers, and ultimately that's international rugby is about. This, the little margins can decide games. Often when you review games, very few games you look at and be like, we could have won that game. Like most games you lose, you'd be like, oh, we could have won that game, and they're often decided on small margins. So you're always just trying to nudge a few people up a couple of percent. But I'm a big believer in the marginal gains concept, and that if you nudge everyone up a couple of percent in the team, that's 30%.
Yeah, it can compound.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I mean, it comes back to what you said earlier on around that moment of realizing that you've got a really punchy longer term goal. Yeah, but then how do you really break that down to practice and how almost have it in that bite-sized behaviors individually, and then with 15, men on a pitch, that can really, if everybody's in control of their own purpose and their behaviors in the right place, then that can go a long way. You've been part of the Scottish, rugby journey from that transition, if you like, of going through the tougher period to then really kind of going through that journey, particularly under Vern Cotter and then to Gregor now. And the brand of rugby's really changed. I think you only need to look at the capacity of Murrayfield and how much that's changed in the last 5-10 years as well. What did you see on the ground in terms of what was changing in terms of some of those, whether it's beliefs, the behaviours, the high performance culture and structure behind the badge?
The thing that Vern did very well was sort of reconnect us to Scotland. So what are Scottish people known for? They fight and they have passion, right? We need to show that. We're creative, all these things. He was big on the culture side of it. And then Gregor was really big on, and he still is big on the environment side. So he's huge on making sure that when players come into the national team camp, it's a happy place and people want to be there. It's an enjoyable, happy is not the right word, it's an enjoyable atmosphere, it's an enjoyable environment. But it's enjoyable because we work hard. It's not just a place where everyone sits and plays ping pong all day. When you get to that level, like I used to love working hard, but it was always about the little things. It was making sure we were listened to feedback wise. If there was, boys had issues with the food or, the rooms were, not comfortable or whatever, the feedback was always taken. Every camp was a little bit better. Yeah. I think it was during COVID. We were in the hotel and, the coffee wasn't great in the hotel and we couldn't really go out for coffees because it was during COVID and we were all kind of restricted. So, we gave feedback, it'd be great if we could get a good coffee. So they got a really good coffee machine brought in. Little things that, and the coffee in itself is quite insignificant in high performance, but it's the fact that, okay, we're being listened to here. Yeah. So that, it has to be two ways, and that if there's give, we understand we need to work really, really hard for this as well. And that evolved. Now they have this amazing thing, I think they still do it, the Connection Cafe, where every Monday, I think it is, like they get an outsider in to come and make coffee, and it's like we turn the downstairs lobby of the hotel into like a cafe. Oh, brilliant! Where people stick around and they have coffees, and you might chat. We might be chatting about how was your weekend. I might also be chatting to the hookers about the lineouts that week, and suddenly little conversations are happening. Actually, like, we got a big lineout menu this week. Do you want to go and throw now? We've actually got 20 minutes. Should we go and do a bit of throwing? Yeah. Okay, and then like these are little behaviours that spur off the back of it, and Also, it allows you just time to connect as well with your team, and it's what these little things that make environments enjoyable, but also they contribute to high performance in a really subtle way.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny the amount of times if you see it on some of the behind the scenes documentaries or social media, you see all the rugby players now, they're like baristas, aren't they?
Yeah, we all love it, yeah. I know.
Can you make a good flat white, can you?
Yeah, I can, yeah. I'm really into my coffee. I used to be really into it, and then still am. Still got a nice machine at home, and I still enjoy it.
Yeah, brilliant. There's always stages in anyone's career, but particularly when they become leaders, or you're in your certain team, and you can get imposter syndrome. When in your career have you kind of felt that the most, a level of imposter syndrome? If at all?
I think when I first started captaining Scotland, I was captain in a team where there were guys still in the team who had been captain before me as well.
Yeah.
So I sort of almost felt like, oh, why am I captain? These guys are older and more experienced than me. Should they not be captain? And that was definitely a little bit of that. That's probably one of my big learnings that I give leaders now is you have to lead in the way that's right for you, because I think in the start of my career, leading was about, such and such led before me and it was kind of working, so I might just do the same as him, even though when, whether it's he would, for example, Greg Laidlaw, like incredible leader, Scottish rugby legend. He was very passionate and vocal, and he loved speaking and inspiring by the way he spoke, and I remember being really inspired by the way he spoke. And then when I became captain, I think, okay, I'm going to have to do all this talking now. And I need to do all the speeches. And it wasn't really who I was. So it took a few games or seasons to learn that actually that's not me. That's not my style of leadership. My style of leadership is about working really hard and wanting others to follow me. It's about being authentic to myself. Ultimately, I care for people. So leading through caring, and there's a way to do that as well. So making sure that you've got your ear to the ground with everyone in your team, and if everyone's happy or if there's any boys unhappy about certain things, making sure you can find solutions for them. And also it brings me on to another point about leadership is I think one of the biggest things I learned is like bring other people with you on the journey. And when you become a captain of a team, you can it's very common to think, oh, it's on me now. Like, I'm doing the press conferences, I'm doing all these, I need to also lead the team and tactics. I mean, I was pulled into all sorts of meetings. I learned that it's okay to say, do you mind if I don't come, can I send this player to this meeting instead? Because, I trust him and he'll take care of this for me this week. Or pre-game speeches, I would always rope in Grant Gilchrist, like a good friend, someone I trusted really, really well. And I would say before the game, do you mind talking in the huddle, when we first go out on the pitch, just give me one less thing to think about. And he was good at it. Like, he loved it. And so it's brilliant. And it might be someone, it could also be you come off the back of a loss and you're trying to motivate the guys. We've got a game against England this week. You feel energy's a bit low. You go to your biggest energizer and you say, I need you to help me lead this week. That was a really phrase I used a lot. Like, I need you to help me lead this team this week. Like, boys are a bit flat. Make sure the energy's up in training. I'm leaving that with you. Drive the energy by the way you are. Be yourself. Like, I need you to help me lead this team. I then go to someone else. Scrum maybe wasn't as good, like Xander. I need you to help me lead the scrum this week. And then suddenly I'm offloading loads of stuff to people that I trust. My capacity for making significant contributions and increasing. I can lead the way I want. I can just focus on working hard. I can listen to the younger lads if they're not happy with certain things, or feedback around training if it's too long or too much contact. We all used to get a lot, and just making sure that you're authentic to yourself. That was a big learning.
Well, that's it. I think that's an amazing advice for people, because I think it's so easy to think when you become a leader or a captain or a managing director or whatever, just any leadership responsibility, you automatically think, who's led me and how did they behave?
Yeah.
And then how do I do that? But kind of that inauthenticity is easy to see from people. And I loved what you said around you need to be able to take people on a journey with you. And you do that by giving them trust and, also clear expectations of what you want from them.
Yeah.
That moment of you being able to have very good self-awareness of, I'm good at this, so I'm going to focus on that. However, Grant Gilchrist is good at this, so I'm going to pull him in. I think that really not only enables you to have more clarity on your role as a leader and be more impactful, but also before you know it, there's 4 or 5 other people in that week that are stepping up into a leadership role.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's really, really important.
The key as well is to make sure you have people that you trust in there as well. Like, I think I've been involved in certain teams where the leadership group kind of gets thrust on you, and you kind of have to, you're meant to look what you're given. Whereas, I was always aware that I had my people that I trusted, and otherwise you're giving people tasks and you're worried if they're actually going to do them. Whereas if you've got your group of people that you can actually make your life a bit easier, you're not having to chase. Have you done this yet? Have you put the message in the group about the dirty kit? Have you helped out the kit man? You don't have to worry about that as long as you've got the right people with you.
Yeah, absolutely. What about, you talked a little bit earlier on around the moment you got called up to Scotland. What about the day you get told you're going to become captain of your country?
Really special. I remember I was in the Three Sisters, which is a bar in Edinburgh, and we were on our end of season social. And I mean, I wasn't pissed, but my phone, I'd had a few beers, and I was like, Gregor's phoning me. I was like, do I take it or not? And it was like 7:30 or something, and I was like, I should probably get it. So I pick up, and Gregor's quite relaxed. He was like, hi, how's it going? What are you up to? I said, we're actually in the pub. And he's like, have you got a minute? I said, yeah, of course. He says, the summer tour's coming up. I thought he was potentially just phoning me to tell me I was selected to go on the summer tour. We were touring America and Canada and Argentina. And he said, Stuart, we're just selecting the squad, finalising the squad. We'd love you to captain the squad for the summer tour. What do you think? And I'd said, sorry, can you say that again?
You put your Guinness down.
Yeah, put my Guinness down. And he kind of laughed because he knew I'd heard him, but I just wanted to say it again. He said, yeah, I want you to be captain. What do you think? I said, yeah, of course. Like, well, so proud. I didn't tell anyone because no one really saw that he'd phoned me, so I kind of kept it to myself and spoke to my wife and mums and dad and stuff. And just, overwhelming pride knowing that all the behaviours were... it was happening, it was the dream I'd had as a boy, watching Jason White lift the cup, and suddenly I'd had the phone call from the Scotland head coach asking me to captain, and it was, amazingly special day.
It's unbelievable. And your parents?
Yeah.
What was, how
they were quite proud.
Yeah, quite proud.
Yeah. Again, they're very, and it helped because they're very level-headed with it all. They're like, that's great news. Like, what does that mean?
That is good though, because sometimes if you get like that, somebody that's just only lived and breathed rugby, that would probably sometimes put even more pressure on you.
Yeah, I never had that. Yeah. It was, never. But it was amazing. So that was the summer tour. I got announced as captain. Was finding my feet with it all. I actually got injured in training before we went, so I kind of thought I was, I wasn't maybe going to go. But then they scanned it, and there was a chance I was going to make the second and definitely make the last game.
Yeah. Where was that to?
So it was Canada, America, Argentina. So it was 2018. And I remember going, not making the so we played the Canada game. We then lost the we beat Canada, lost to America, and then we were going down to Resistencia in Argentina, which is like a tough place to go. Football stadium, like cages all around. But I was fit and I was ready, and it was going to be my first time captaining Scotland.
See, before you even go on that, and you're going on that the trip knowing you're going to be the captain.
Yeah.
How different is that to what you're used to? Are you getting into a bit of planning with Gregor and what you want that to look like? What is it? How does it change just even that from that moment you've taken that phone call onwards?
Gregor was good in that he would take a lot of the sort of planning side of it, like, but you're definitely consulted more in terms of this is what we're thinking of training. Like, what do you reckon? And I'd look at it and I'd most likely say, yeah, it looks fine. I'm not someone to nitpick about little things about, that training looks a little bit long, or I'm just like, yeah, it looks like fine. It's a training schedule. Like, we'll work hard and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was more like when you become captain, you're involved in leadership groups. There's more meetings you have to have. So it might be like after dinner, the leaders are meeting. So you'd maybe meet and you'd say, right, we've got a big training day tomorrow. How are we going to do it? Like, what do we need to cover in training? This might be with the coaches as well. And you might think, it's a big physical team. Like, we could maybe do a little bit of live defense. Is that in there? no, right, can we maybe add in 5 minutes? Like, I know it's a bit niggly, but it'll pay dividends.
Yeah.
And then you're just, again, those are the conversations where I would say, like, 𝐿𝐭𝐿, I need you to help me a lot this week with the forward stuff. Like, I'm going to be focusing on, it was Adam Hastings for one of his first games. So I remember wanting to make sure that he was okay. And I remember running up to him in the warm up and making sure he was doing all right. Because ultimately we needed him to be at his best for the game. I really needed him to lead the team well as a standoff and kick us in the right areas and not overplay. But that wouldn't have helped if I said that to him in the warm up of the game. So it was about saying, just be yourself. Like, this is, you deserve to be here. Just if in doubt, get us in the right areas. And if you're like, we'll get us through this game. This will be a good game for us all. Good opportunity. So you're always just like trying to find ways to make everyone be at their best, including myself as well. And this is like something that I tell anyone who's in a position of leadership or captaincy. Like, the most important thing is that you are performing well, because it's very easy to, before you're a captain, or before I was a captain, I had this huge amount of capacity where it was all about making sure that, like, the odds were stacked in my favor for performing well. And everything I did was based around me performing well. Whereas when you're a captain, some of that capacity is taken up because you're also then in meetings about training, and you're delegating tasks to people and you're making sure they've done them. And after a team run, I would normally, if I was not captain, I'd go home and I'd sit in my recovery pumps and do my recovery. And after a team run, if you're captain, you're sticking around at the stadium for an hour and a half to do press and media. So the ability to focus on yourself reduces. So you have to be aware of that and accept that. I struggled to accept that initially because I wasn't getting the time to get myself ready. But yeah, again, it's something that you learn, but it's so important. Leadership is about leading by example, and you have to be performing well. So don't ever do anything that compromises that.
For sure. We're going to come on to a huge high that you had as a captain that's very famous in people's minds. But take me through a moment that's been your most challenging as a leader or as a captain, where you really doubted yourself, or you went through a really tough time or adversity, or running results that you kind of reflect on it being a really tough period?
Yeah, I mean, captain the World Cup in 2019 was really challenging. We went full of ambition and hope, and we ultimately performed really poorly. It was a challenge because I remember being selected to captain for the World Cup in 2019. It was like such a huge moment, and again, vindication. That was
in Japan.
Yeah. So I mean, amazing. I mean, wicked trip. Amazing place to visit and play rugby. But my overriding memory of that trip was like, it wasn't a pleasant experience. We were under so much pressure. We weren't playing well. We lost the first game against Ireland really badly. And then we kind of muddled through the next two games, it felt, with bonus points. So it kind of masked a little bit that we were okay. And then we were well beaten against Japan in the last game. So I remember that being extremely challenging because when you're leading a team and everything is going well, it's easy to get people to come with you because they all want to be part of a successful leadership team, and they're happy to forego a little bit of their stuff to help be a leader and help you out because you're winning and it's great. When you're under the pump and you're losing games, suddenly the offers for help disappear. It can be really lonely, really, really lonely, and suddenly you feel a lot of it's on you. Suddenly, people were asking me for my advice on things that I wasn't, like, just silly things about, can you put a message in the group about this? Can you put a message in the group about that? And I'm just like, this isn't important right now. Like, we've got a game against Japan in 3 days. But my usual helpers, some of them were there, obviously, but a lot of the time, and rightly so, people are looking after themselves. Like, they have to be focusing on their own performance because none of us were really playing that well. And those that were able just to focus on themselves were doing that, and I don't blame them for it. Whereas I was captain and I was like, I can't just focus on myself because that's not what a captain needs to do right now. And I was realistically still quite early on in my leadership journey then, so I didn't have all the answers. So I kind of had to learn on my feet, and it was extremely challenging.
Yeah. How much does the external noise get in, whether that's journalists, social media, fans?
Not hugely, if I'm honest. Maybe some more than others, but I'd never looked at it. So I mean, I didn't have it wasn't on my phone. So deliberately, I maybe still had Instagram, but I didn't have anything that I would see headlines or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think the issue is, like, because I was doing press as captain, the press officer would say before, "Oh, you're going to get asked about this. Like, this is what's going on in the world of social media." You know, no one thinks we're good enough. They're questioning whether you're the right person to captain. They're questioning the coach. They're questioning everything, which happens when you're under the pump. Yeah. So you kind of have to be ready. You can't really totally ignore it. But yeah, I guess I had my way of wanting to do it, and it was just really tough. Right? There was no real secret to it or anything like that. It was just a real big learning experience about. One thing I did learn was that I just needed to always do things my way whenever I led. It was a big eye opener about being authentic. I think I got caught in trying to do loads, you know, be motivational when I spoke, but also be calm and give clarity. And whereas me as a leader, I'm calm. I lead by being calm and being clear under pressure. And but suddenly I was under pressure, so I found myself getting quite emotional when I spoke, which wasn't me. So I wasn't really leading authentically. But again, coming away from that, there's learning and everything. It was just unfortunate it happened at a World Cup.
Yeah, but I think it's always good learns as well, I guess. But that's challenging, I can only imagine. But you've been very clear in this conversation around how much that goal was for you to stand in the front of a tunnel, leading your country out in a Calcutta Cup, and you know that vision and the visual of Jason White lifting the trophy. So then you take yourself to, and it's happening for you down in Twickenham.
Yeah,
but you're leading your country out, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the couch, but it is without doubt the best game of rugby I've watched and been most emotionally invested in. Certainly writing it off after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, take me through that amazing day at Twickenham and how that looked.
So before the game, I was worried. I had a feeling that we hadn't been playing well that tournament, and I had a feeling that sort of towards the end of camp, it was the last game, and it was a really tough place to go away and playing when we were playing well. We knew that we were going to be up against it, and I felt a little bit of, like, you talk about like fight or flight mode. So I could see a few eyes like looking to get back to their clubs, which sounds a bit bizarre. But it's just the feeling I got. So I was a bit worried, but obviously, you know, full of hope that maybe I'd got that wrong. And we hadn't really trained that well that week. We did the team run, which is the training session you do the day before the game. Hadn't really gone that well. So if I'm honest, we kind of went into that game full of hope that we were going to put something together. And we just started terribly, and they started amazingly. You know, they were 31-0 up after 30 minutes. And I remember, like, trying to get people together under the posts. Every time you can see the try, you're having to say something, and it was falling on me as captain, and I would always just try and focus on the next job. You know, you can see the first try, and you can be like, right, lads, next job is let's make sure we kick off. Where we're kicking off, right, long right. Let's chase it. Let's get a dominant collision, force a good contest to break down. If they kick out, we're gonna write a Sterling play. Okay, so be really clear about that. And that's okay if you're 7-0 down, but when you're 31-0 and you're trying to give that speech for the 5th time, you're a bit like, no one's really looking at you, no one's really listening. So a hugely challenging moment in that regard, because
is there silence in the team though, and almost in terms of like, or is there a bit of aggro? Like
what? No. At the start, it kind of dwindles. I think I remember everyone's there and everyone's desperate to win. So after you concede an early try, you know, it happens. You know, it happened loads in my career. It doesn't define the game. So you generally, boys are talking, oh, don't worry about that. It was my missed tackle. Let's just keep going, keep to the strategy. But then it happens again and again. Suddenly, we were 31-0. There wasn't a lot of voices under the posts. Like, that's when I felt really alone. And, you know, you're looking around, some boys are stretching their hammies, like, feeling a wee bit tight, thinking, I might get subbed, or, there was a lot of sort of the flight or freeze kind of reactions going on. And I remember just thinking, like, someone needed to do something. Like, I didn't think it was going to be me. But I just remember thinking, like, you got to stop the bleeding somehow.
Yeah.
Stop their momentum, because everything they were touching was turning to gold, and we couldn't get a foothold in the game. It felt like we couldn't go more than a few phases without dropping the ball, and then they would score straight away. But we had a mindset of that day to sort of get at Farrell's foot. So he was a big kicking threat. So charge downs were a big thing for us. And it was like, I remember being under the post and seeing like Scotland fans leaving Twickenham, and it was like heartbreaking as captain that day. And they've probably saved up a lot of money and looked forward to this weekend for a long time, and they're leaving after 30 minutes because they've not seen anything of themselves in the Scotland team. That was really tough to take, and I remember vividly thinking, like, what are the behaviours that a Scotland captain has to show right now? And I just decided that I wasn't going to give up. Like, people were giving up, and I was like, I wasn't going to give up. And got in front of Farrell, charged them down, managed to gather it, and I remember seeing the try line 60 metres away and thinking, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to run as long as I can. And yeah, managed to get there somehow.
Has a hooker ever scored a try from further out?
I don't know.
It must be a world record.
Yeah. We'll call it a world record.
Johnny May chasing after you. And
Johnny May, yeah, he tripped up on Farrell, actually. You watch it, he stumbles a wee bit, which helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny, but it was just sheer, like, determination. Like, I was going to just go for as long as I could. And it just happened that I managed to swerve at the right time and make it. But it was just like, I had scored a few tries from far out in my time in rugby, but none has been ever quite as important as that one. So, but yeah, again, not once did I think that was going to change the game.
Yeah.
Just, whether it did or didn't,
that's just for
the point. Yeah, but it's more, I was just relieved that I wasn't back under my own posts, having to try and find some eyes to speak to.
So what happens at halftime?
There's no big secret. There's no big story around it. We spoke about just trying to win the second half. Right, that was the mindset. We wanted to have a goal that was achievable. So turning around a 24-point deficit seemed quite far down the line. Like, to do that, we probably just need to score next and try and win the second half. And that seemed achievable. And that's something that we all bought into. I couldn't tell you what we said at halftime for 90% of my games, but I can remember that. It was very clear. And I don't remember loads. There was still a lot of.
And are boys like, are they, because you've just scored the try, are you seeing any belief in the eyes at that stage, or is it still a matter of, right, let's just try and simplify it and get back out there? Or...
No, you're not seeing loads of belief at halftime in that change room. No, I'm not going to lie to you. It was dark. It was a lot of shock.
They're thinking about the night out, if they're allowed one.
Yeah, nah, it's not really like that. No one's that far ahead, but it's just generally just a bit like, what are we going to do here? Like, we had a strategy, it wasn't working, and let's not beat around the bush. Like, Finn Russell played the half of his life in the second half, and that played a huge part in it. Everything he was touching just came off. I don't know if we'll ever have a game of rugby like that ever again. And a game ultimately we were disappointed to lose.
Yeah. So it's crazy because you scored try after try after try. How does the conversation change every single time? Instead of you standing underneath the posts, it's the English, and you're running back halfway to set up again, and you're speaking to your team.
Mm-hmm.
How does that conversation change every time? Or is it just keeping it simple, next job?
Next job. Yeah, absolutely next job. It's like a cliche and that no one really wants to hear, but you can only control like what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And you can't control something down the line. If you're receiving a kick, you can control. But I'm a firm believer that if you had to receive a kickoff, catch it, and kick the ball along, if you had to do that to like save your family's life, you would do it.
Yeah,
you'd be that concentrated. So it's about taking every single moment in isolation and making sure you do it to the best of your ability. There was a really good podcast I listened to with Iona Stephen with golf, and she spoke about her mindset being that she used to play 18 holes of golf, but actually every single hole was the game of golf. This is the game of golf, one hole. And then she took it even further into every single shot was the game of golf. So it might be, one 7-iron, and this is the game of golf right here. This whole game, it relies on this one shot, and then it just brings a whole level of concentration to that one shot, because if you span something out so big, you can sort of think, oh, I'll get away if that's not that good, and I'll get away with that because it's so far away. Whereas everything matters, especially in the top level of elite sport.
Yeah, brilliant. What a memory.
Yeah.
Where does that sit in terms of just career highlights?
I mean, it's definitely the thing I get asked about the most. Yeah, it's up there for sure. Lifting the cup of Twickenham.
Unbelievable.
And that's like, again, like the wee boy that kind of had that dream to then to do it.
Please tell me you've got a photo side by side in your house of you and Jason White.
I should.
That needs to be done.
Yeah, I was lucky going. I met Jason years. Well, he ended up working with me for a while as a sergeant, which was brilliant. So I know Jason well. I bumped into him the other week actually in North Berwick. So it's quite cool having that. And now having a personal relationship with him as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should.
In Edinburgh, you were co-captain.
Yeah.
Talk me through that and how that dynamic works in terms of. It's something you see quite a lot in Scottish rugby at the moment, whether it's the national team. I think Edinburgh's had co-captain for a few seasons and with different people. How does that kind of look in practice, and how you make sure you get the best of each other, but also the roles are very clear? How does that co-captaincy look?
Yeah, I mean, co-captains are becoming more and more common, and it's a huge benefit to a team to have two guys leading it, especially if they're we get on well and they have different strengths. So it's no different to one captain having a leadership group and bringing people with him. It's more just about making two people sort of that title. It does share the workload massively. Instead of one person having to decide who does what, it's like, right, you sit down, you have a coffee, right? How do you want to do it? How do you want to captain this team, and how should we do it? What do you want to do? What shall I do? It's very just, it's a way of, I believe it's a way of getting the best out of each captain, allowing them to make sure their ability to play their best as well.
Yeah. That's interesting, because you get a lot of skeptics, don't you? In terms of people, like, they'll say, oh, no, it should just be one person leading. But I think, but then when you speak to people like yourself and others, like, there's not always just one leader anyway. You've got that leadership group as well. And because people aren't seeing the formation of a week and who's talking and who's leading, they sometimes think all of a sudden, oh, there's two co-captains, it's lack clarity, but it sounds like it's actually got immense benefits.
Huge. And also you'd have I think me and Grant, when we did Edinburgh, Grant would be the on-field captain. So although we'd both be co-captains, he would run out first and the ref would speak to him. And that was just because he was really good at speaking with refs. And not that I wasn't, but allowed leading captain from the front row. I would naturally have conversations with the referee anyway, because I was in the front row of the scrum and he was always there. It allowed Grant to also have a voice to speak because he was the nominated captain that day. So and there's always on the pitch. There's always sort of the one captain that speaks to the ref, but I just think co-captains are just a way of lightening the workload. It's not a small task being captain of a club or a country. It's a huge task.
Yeah.
And that can be something that I think gets missed by the public, who just want one captain. They want to see
one throat to choke.
Yeah, or someone say he's our leader, he's brilliant. I follow him. Modern day sport, there's leaders everywhere, and actually it helps. It helps us when we have someone to share with, and that's all it's about.
Yeah, well, it's something we're seeing more and more in business as well, and whether it's actually multiple managing partners or co-CEOs, you're seeing it more and more, and because the benefits are huge. So now it's fascinating to hear that. You've obviously played in a lot of different teams and been in a lot of different cultures and changing rooms. What do you reflect upon as the best culture of that high performance culture that you've been part of, and why?
Definitely around sort of 2018. Scotland, 2017, 2018 was really, really positive for me, like really strong memories. Gregor sort of come into Scotland and it was very clear the way he wanted to play, and we'd all bought into it, and it was new, it was brilliant, and we had a really good run of games. I think the things that stick with me about that campaign are, like, we were really clear about inspiring the nation. Like, that was what it was about.
Yeah.
So we can tie that into your values, or however businesses talk about it, or individuals talk about it. A real higher purpose of why we're all there and why we're all going to give that extra little bit when you play for Scotland. It was very clear, and we just had a really good group, and it's not to say that it's probably in an even better spot now, but I just remember being part of that team, and it was my first real stint into like I was number 2. I was on the starting every week, and it was brilliant. And I remember enjoying it, like really looking forward to going into camp. Training was good. Meetings were short, like little things that make a big difference about that. Like not the worst cultures or environments, but just the ones that are slightly less enjoyable is maybe when you're in a meeting for an hour and a half, debriefing a game, and suddenly your attention span's gone an hour ago.
Yeah. But I think it's what you talk about. You said, like, why was it so impactful in such a high performance culture? And you talked about like clarity.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people find themselves in meetings, and because there's lack of punch and actual clarity around what you're trying to get out of them. I think I've heard you talk about it before. Obviously, I think was it like each person could talk for 7 minutes.
Yeah. So the coaches would have only a certain amount of time they could speak for.
Yeah.
Which really made them hone in on what was important for that week. I remember chatting to one of the coaches at Scotland. I said, "We've not covered goal line defence. We're playing a game tomorrow. Like, are we not going to cover it?" And he said, "I've not had time to cover it in the detail that I want, so we're going to cover it next week." Yeah. Because, again, I've had coaches who just throw everything at you and maybe hope that a couple of things stick, whereas they would plan each week, we're going to throw these things at them and they're all going to stick.
Yeah.
Because there's only a few things. And then next week, we're going to layer on something else. We're going to build the foundations of this team over a number of years rather than give you everything and then tell you off when you've forgotten half of it.
I know. Well, you think there's maybe, particularly you've got 30 players in there.
Yeah.
And who's going to be taking what? And that mess. I think it's Shaun Edwards. I think he almost delivers 3 messages for every game or 3 points.
Yeah.
To just really simplify it for the.
That's really common. We had that as well. The coaches I worked with, they were all.
Yeah.
You'd have themes. You'd have points for every week. I know. Yeah. Shaun Edwards would have the same drills he would do. So the teams got really good at certain drills. We were the same. Talk about defence, like with Steve Tandy, we'd do the same drill every week, and we just became exceptional at it. And it was very relevant. We didn't come up with new things just for the sake of it. Like, what's working? What can we do well? Because when you train well, you get confidence, and comes off that as well.
Yeah. And what about the opposite? When you've been in a team environment or culture that is it's not good, might be toxic, and you're not really looking forward to going into. You talked about how you'll really look forward to going into that environment in Scotland because it's a good place to be. There's clear purpose. What's the other end of the scale?
Yeah, I think ultimately if people don't have like a sense of belonging, that's important. That's when you start getting disconnects, and you start having a team where you've got your guys that are playing every week, and they're the guys that are happy because they're playing and they're getting that exposure and they're getting chances to play and win and put their hand up for future contracts and Scotland games. And then you've got a handful of players who are not playing and they feel like they're never going to get a chance. And then you have a divide. Like, that's the worst thing for a rugby team if you've got a divide where half the guys are happy and half the guys aren't. Yeah. And then they become toxic. So, luckily I wasn't involved in too many of them, but, when they do happen, that's when, as a leader, you have to try and step up and identify. And that's when I was always, as a leader, I felt, what are the young lads expecting to see from the captain of this club or country right now? And if they're not happy, they're expecting you to do something about it, or at least listen to them. So I was always aware of that.
Yeah. So, you then, when you look back on your career now, Stuart, could you retire in 2023?
Yeah.
On your terms?
Yeah.
Talk me through that, but then also how you reflect on your career.
I retired, I don't like the word retire, it's 67-year-olds. I transitioned out of rugby when I was 33, and I was very aware that was like my last contract. I signed it, and always had a plan. I was going to transition out of rugby and become a commercial pilot. So the last 3 years of my contract, I made sure I had enough money saved up to put myself through flight school and cover the mortgage and the kids and everything for a couple of years, which it's now, I'm in the job again. So yeah, it was just very planned for. Everything kind of happened on purpose and was deliberate. There was no big stress when, you see players are waiting around for that phone to ring, hoping they're getting offered a contract that doesn't come. I never had to worry about that. I walked into the Edinburgh chief exec's office and said, I'm just letting you know I'm stopping playing.
Amazing.
Which was really, really nice.
And rare.
Yeah, it is rare. And I did feel lucky because I was able to do it and I was ready to stop. But also I really wanted to go to the World Cup as well in France. So I was glad I made that. And then I transitioned out, did all my exams in 2024, did all my flight training in 2025, and then applied for a job, straight after it, and which I now start in March.
Amazing. Yeah, you're very lucky because you've lived this dream that I certainly had, and a lot of people had, of playing for Scotland.
Yeah.
But over the course of that career, you really started realizing that you had this incredible passion and desire to become a commercial airline pilot. So now that's your next stage of your career. So it's certainly, as you say, it's a retirement from rugby, but it's a very exciting next stage of your life. And
I'm more excited for this than I can ever remember for playing rugby.
It's crazy,
isn't it? It's people don't believe me when I say that, and I'm not sure I even believe it because I'm quite far out the rugby now that I'm sure I was obviously really excited when I was playing.
Yeah.
But this has been the dream since I was before I even started playing rugby. Like I wanted to be a commercial airline pilot. So to finally be achieving it is just a dream come true.
You'll learn so much from your career in rugby to then take into this next step of your career. What do you think the key things will be that you're going to take into it, and almost it'll make you ready to be a great pilot, but really succeed in this next stage in your career?
Definitely the mindset around preparation. Like whenever I talk about why I achieved what I did, it was a lot down to how I prepared, covered all my bases, making sure that the odds were stacked in my favor of performing well every week. So I would always make sure I'd done all my throwing sessions throughout the week. I knew that what I needed to do to play well, I would tick off every box, whether it was recovery, extra training, fitness training, physical training, meetings, watching training, previewing teams. So if we were playing the All Blacks, like watching the All Blacks scrum, I would tick everything off to know that I was as prepared as I possibly could be. And that generally allowed me to play well in games because the odds were stacked in my favour. I definitely do that in aviation now as well. So I noticed it in my commercial flight training where I would run my sort of what if scenarios all the time. Like, so I had a flight planned. What if this happens? What if the weather closes in? What if air traffic reroute us?
Yeah.
What if they ask me this question? What am I going to say? And I would make sure that I'd planned every flight. I would do a lot of chair flying. It's a big part of aviation that you hear about, but it's really invaluable. So like on the drive up to the flight school, it was an hour's drive. I would pretty much do the whole flight on the way up. I would do all the radio calls that I would do. I'd think about fuel. I'd think about what buttons, not just where I'm going, but what buttons am I pressing? Where do the buttons, like, how do they feel? Once I've pressed this button, where's my hand going next? What are the threats today? What could make this go wrong?
Yeah.
So I would sort of, that level of preparation that I've learned from elite sport carried me through in my flight training for sure. And it definitely made a difference.
So we're going to finish just with a few quick fire questions. They're not going to be too quick, so you're going to have a little bit of time to elaborate when you want. As part of this journey of speaking to people like yourself, we're going to kick off a thing called the Leaders Unlocked podcast, Leaders Unlocked Library.
Yeah.
And it's around understanding from leaders and high performers like yourself, away from the people that have shaped them and influenced them, where's there maybe a book or a podcast or a resource that you can kind of think that's maybe had the biggest impact on them? Is there one that kind of stands out for you at all?
I used to read a lot of leadership books, and then realized it wasn't actually helping me because I was trying to lead through ways that weren't authentic to me. Because one leadership book would talk about leading this way and then that way, and it all sounds brilliant in a really well-written book, but learning on the field was the best way for me. Best book I read was Start With Why, Simon Sinek. And that's a great one on just selling visions to people, because that's ultimately what leadership is. You're trying to sell a journey that people can come with you on. And he's big on starting with why. So understanding that that's what people really grab onto. It's not necessarily what you're doing. You're not trying to convince people to win a game of rugby. You're trying to convince people, come with me and let's inspire the nation today.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think I like you said there, because I've seen so many leaders swallow so many chapters of so many different books and try and thread them together, and it's just chaotic, and it's also pretty easy to see when you're following something like that it's not really that authentic. So I really like what you shared there. Okay, I've got a few questions for you here, Stuart. Okay. Are great leaders born, or can they be developed?
Developed. Yeah.
Good answer. If you could go for a coffee with one leader and pick their brains for a couple hours, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
I remember reading Richard Branson's autobiography and like loving the way he thought surround, because he spoke about that he's not really invented anything. He just finds things and does them better. You know, with the Virgin Atlantic, and you know, he tried to create Virgin Cola just because he saw a gap in the market and just saw something that was doing well, tried to do it a little bit better.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately like part of who I am, just trying to find ways and to do things a little bit better. So yeah, 2 hours with him would be pretty cool. Go on to his island.
What would you ask him?
What would I ask him? I'd want to know what his like biggest sort of regrets were in his career. I think they're always quite valuable. Like mentors, and they've got so much experience, and if you actually tap into them, you don't realize it when you're younger. You have a mentor and you think, oh, they might be useful, but actually when you get older and you realize someone who's lived a life, if they could go back and do it again, maybe that'd be a good one. Like if you go back and do it all again, how would you do it if you were my age now and just starting out and trying to be the best at something? What are you doing different?
Really good. What's your most important non-negotiable as a leader?
Just being authentic and working really hard probably stands out more than anything.
Great. It might be the same answer, but what's one word that defines your leadership style most?
Caring.
Caring?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Just like, I feel like, again, it's just part of who I am, and I feel the feedback I've had on leadership has been like, I've always had a good level of care for my team, and that's nice for me to hear, because I do try and make sure people are okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that's so powerful. A lot of the theme of today has been talking around taking people on journeys with you.
Yeah.
And it's got to be authentic, and you've got to be able to actually really care about people for them to buy into you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think as well that strong characteristic will do incredible things for you in your next stage of your career as well. Because it's, you know, you're quite literally having to care for those people and give them that confidence and of that experience. So
yeah,
really, really good. What do you see as the most underrated leadership quality?
Bringing people with you. Yeah, I think it's, again, for leaders who are maybe just starting out in positions, they can see it as a weakness. You know, they think, oh, I should be doing everything because I've been chosen as a captain or a chief exec or whatever the role is. You know, this will look a bit weak if I'm asking other people to do stuff for me. Whereas actually it's the complete opposite. And it brings longevity to your role, and it makes your life a lot easier. And I think bring people with you on the journey.
Yeah, brilliant. What would be an advice for somebody they're just starting, step one of doing that and they're in a role? How do you start going around taking people on that journey?
Identify sort of your strengths, like what are you bringing to the group? For example, there'd be no real benefit for me of bringing in someone else who had a strong sense of care that I had, because I can cover that.
Yeah.
I'm not great at speaking with real emotion if we need like a kick up the arse type thing. Yeah. Say your boys are a wee bit flat and they're just needing a wee spark.
Yeah.
That's not a strength for me. So I would try and find someone that was good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. A defensive leader, you know, again, like someone that defense isn't going well, I would know who am I going to, and it's someone that I trust. So identifying areas where you're strong, identify areas where you think you could get tripped up on, and then cover those with people you trust.
Yeah, great. Who are the two people that have had the biggest influence on you, both as a leader and as a person?
𝐒𝐿𝐴, my under-17 coach, for reasons discussed earlier.
Does he know that?
I hope so.
You can tell him now.
I might do now. I'm sure he does. Maybe I should have tell him again, but yeah, definitely him. Also, I'm going to go also to two more. Yeah. Graham Shield was also an academy coach of mine who gave up time when I was at school to come and I used to struggle with high ball catching, and he would come in my free periods and kick balls to me just for an hour.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get better at it and I wanted to improve, and he would do it and give up his time to come and pull me out of class and kick high balls to me. I wanted to work on number 8 pickups. He would then pick brains of number 8s and bring me stuff. And so just, you always remember people that gave up their time for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Fun fact about 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐿 is he lived 5 minutes away from us, in the middle of nowhere in the Scottish borders, and he used to babysit me. So
is that right?
Fun fact.
Yeah. Well, he's got a good boot on him as well.
Yeah.
And then Richard Cockrell, when he came into Edinburgh, really big influence on me as a player. Allowed me to really understand what proper hard work is. I always work
Certainly
hard.
gives that vibe.
Yeah, he does, and he doesn't make any apologies for it.
Yeah.
That is him, and he took I was, like I said, I've always worked hard, but he took me to a sort of new level and how hard I worked. I probably had a ceiling where I thought if I do any more, I might be too tired for the game. Whereas he pushes you and he gets you mega fit, and I put a lot of my sort of good performances down when I was playing for Edinburgh in Scotland to being coached by him.
Great. We've touched on this a little bit today, but best team environment you've been a part of and why?
Okay, I already spoke about Scotland, but I'll speak about the Barbarians.
Great.
Played Barbarians rugby 2023, just coming back from injury. I almost didn't do it because I popped a rib. And I was just coming back from that, and it was my first game back. I missed the whole Six Nations because of this rib. And I was just coming back from injury, and I was like, don't know if I had no big goal to play for the Barbarians. But it was Mike Blair was coaching Edinburgh. He said, do it, it'll be amazing. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. And everyone I spoke to said, you'll love it. So I was like, okay. And it was the best 4 days.
I hear that a lot, yeah.
Because especially, hopefully from the way I've spoke, you can tell how serious I took playing rugby.
Kind of takes rugby back to its core, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was playing at school again with people who just wanted to play for fun, and if you made a mistake, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Scott Robertson was the coach there, and he was just unbelievable at just listening to us. What do you want out of the week? How are we going to get you to enjoy this week the most? I'll always remember we were winning at half time.
Yeah.
Against Harlequins, and then we ended up getting pumped in the second half by 70 points.
Right.
And he, at the time, was coaching Crusaders, 7 Super Rugby Championships in a row or something, mega successful coach. We've just taken 70 points. And after the game, he comes in, he said, boys, how good were we until halftime? And boys, just because we were a bit what's he going to say? And then it was he kind of said, this week's been about you guys connecting with each other and having a good time.
Yeah.
We're disappointed with the result, but that's not going to define the week. Let's enjoy the night. And I just remember getting exactly what that Barbarians week was about, and just having fun, playing rugby with shackles off. And
amazing.
That was a good environment for sure. Yeah.
For sure. If you had a 5-minute conversation with that 15-year-old Stuart McInally at George Watson's, what would you say to him?
Good question. I would say keep your work ethic going through your whole career. Never rest on your laurels, because the second you do, you'll plateau, and that's what happened to me. I missed those couple of years. I do believe I left a few Scotland caps out there.
Yeah.
Because I missed a few. Those early years just didn't work hard enough. So took for granted that the environment would take care of things for me, when actually my biggest strength was being able to own my own career and take full ownership of it, which I'd probably learned when I was 23. So a few years wasted for sure.
Great. And what's the best piece of advice you've been given, be it leadership, high performance or otherwise, that you can pass on to our audience?
Being good is easy, being great isn't. So, people take out of that what they want, which is funny because now, and I talk about that in terms of the behaviours side of it. Good behaviours are easy, great behaviours are quite hard because you have to work a lot harder. But when you do become in that mindset like I am now, actually that is quite easy for me. That's just part of who I am, and preparing properly and covering every base, although it takes time, it's just there's no other option. That's what I do. I'm really looking forward to applying that in my next career as well.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, because it's been so clear through your career that you've had that goal and that visualization of holding up the Calcutta Cup, and that's what you've been striving for. And when you get your first cap, it's not enough. It's just part of the journey. You keep moving on.
Yeah.
What's that goal now? Like, what's the Jason White of the aviation world?
So I have that, and I keep it to myself.
Like that.
And I tell my mentees that as well, the young athletes I work with, because there's no point putting extra pressure on yourself. You know, if I'd said that when I was 16 to the world, you're just getting extra pressure on yourself. Whereas if you tell people that you trust and mentors, then they can help you get there, because they know how to help you get there. So I do have something I want to achieve, and I've got my plan worked out, and hopefully we'll do a podcast in like 20 years and I'll tell you then.
Yeah, brilliant. Stuart, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Great. Thanks, Nate.
Awesome. That was good.